Welcome everyone. Right, okay. So okay, fantastic. So whenever anyone joins, they can just go straight in. Okay, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the Opening Up Roche program event. And thank you to Roche Products Limited for commissioning this event. We're really excited and grateful for the opportunity at MindTorch. My name is Elizabeth Adelodun. I'm a neuroscientist and founder of MindTorch, which is a mentoring and training organization focused on empowering students to make the successful transition from... Can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
we can. I can.
Okay, thank you. Right, so MindTorch is a mentoring and training organization focused on supporting students to make the successful transition from education to employment. And we do this by providing timely information and timely opportunities, as well as access to professionals and employers as we have today. And I'll be your host and also the moderator for the panel discussion today. And co-hosting the events with me today is Selene Parirola. She's a research fellow at Imperial College London. Can you introduce yourself, please, Selene?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here with Elizabeth today, hosting this event. I am a computational researcher at Imperial College London, and my work focuses on cardiovascular medicine. And I really hope you enjoy the event, and we'll try to help you navigate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Selena. And a big thank you to our panelists today. We're really grateful you took the time from your busy schedule to come and share insights about your career journey and also advice for our students that will really help them with their professional and career development. We're also grateful that you're able to talk to us about the Opening Up Roche program, what skills hiring managers like yourselves are looking for, and particularly more about the projects that the students will be engaging in and how to apply. Today on the panel, we have Andrew Amis, UK Head of Talent Acquisition and Global Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Champion. Welcome, Andrew. We also have David Jacobs joining us later. He's the Head of Drug Product Business Operations Support. We have Eddie Okoro, a former professional international hurdler turned early careers leader in the UK. And we have Maida Beslia, psychologist, UK early careers leader and equality, diversity and inclusion champion. Right, so I'm going to go straight to my first question. And I'd like to start with you, Andrew, if that's okay. And I would just like to say, can you share with us first one unique thing about yourself, and also what your role at Roche entails, and how you got your foot into the industry?
Oh, I might take those in reverse, actually, if I may. So how did I get into the industry? I mean, I've always had a curiosity about why people choose to do anything with their lives. You know, there's so much potential in the world that people have, and I'm curious as to why people choose to do what they do with their careers. And I had that from a very young age when I was deciding what I wanted to do with my career, and I really didn't, you know, have a sense. So I went to university to study the mind, essentially, so I could work out why I was choosing to make the decisions I was making. So having learned that, and then kind of fallen into a career in human resources where I could apply that training that I had, I suddenly realized and found a passion for anything that was about helping people to unlock their potential in the corporate world. And so I've always been kind of in large corporate organizations doing that in multiple different roles. But seriously, it was just a curiosity and then a passion and a love for what I wanted to do was why I kind of got into the HR industry. And I work in Roche, which is a large global kind of biotech company, because there's huge resources that organization can then bring to making the world a better place, right? To helping with pain and suffering in the world. And so having the interest in human resources and potential, but then being able to do it in an organization that's trying to improve healthcare across the world then just brings lots of purpose to my life. So that's just following my passion and love is why I've got into the industry. What I do is I hire and kind of promote people into the organization, and I help people in that organization to unlock their potential. So that's my job. And something unique about me, that's caught me a little bit off guard. What can I say? I'm gonna say Eddie's the real athlete, but I fell into a sport that I had never ever done at university, which was rowing, and I absolutely loved it. It was a real sport of working with each other, in a very kind of co-creative way, a very kind of almost like spiritual as well as physical sport, and I thought it was a really great kind of metaphor for work and succeeding in life. So that's me.
Fantastic, thank you, Andrew. Eddie?
Hello, everyone. So yeah, my name's Eddie Okoro. So an interesting fact about me, other than I suppose the athletics piece, so I'm quite a creative person and love kind of graphic design. So I've been kind of had in my spare time, designing logos, websites and stuff like that. So yeah, I enjoy kind of being creative as a whole. How I got into the organization, it's a bit of a long story, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do within for my career. So I was trying to kind of apply for roles with areas that I could kind of apply myself. And yeah, long story cut short, I kind of applied for a role and was kind of recommended for another part of the organization within HR. And then with my passion for early careers and supporting people to find their potential, especially for those who haven't found out what they want to do yet, I kind of landed within the early career space. So it's kind of a try this, try that, and I managed to find kind of the thing that I think makes me excited to come into work and to add real value to people, but also within a company that also adds value to patients within a medical sense. So yeah, that's kind of me and my kind of trajectory into the organization.
Thank you, Eddie. Maida?
Hi everyone, my name is Maida, and one interesting thing about me, so I am a horse rider and I specialize in natural horsemanship. So if any of you have ever seen a movie called Horse Whisperer, where they do all those weird things with the horses, that's my jam. So that's one interesting thing about me. How did I fall into the industry? That's a good question. I think I kind of, in my kind of education, I was very similar to Andrew, interested in understanding why people make choices that they do, hence my degree in psychology. But then even more so, I was interested to understand how can we make workplaces better, because we spend so much time working. So having a workplace that really kind of allows you to be your true self is something that I'm super passionate about. So I did a master's in organizational psychology. And then once I finished that kind of research, I was very interested into seeing kind of how it plays out into practice. And then through a series of kind of serendipitous connections, I had been connected with Andrew, and we kind of had these really deep, interesting conversations about why people make choices that they do. And I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. This is where I could work. And that it kind of worked itself out from there. So that's kind of where I came from, really wanting to understand people and also wanting to make organizations better, more sustainable, and more humane in a way. So that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Right. Eddie, can we start with you next? My second question is, what do you enjoy most about your role? And also, what do you enjoy most about working at Roche?
Yeah, so what I enjoy about my role. So when I first started at Roche, there wasn't really kind of an early career kind of presence. We had a couple of programs within the UK. So being able to really drive the early career strategy from a page almost, was something that, you know, really excited me, and the fact that, you know, was empowered to do so, and having the kind of freedom and the autonomy, and also the support from, you know, from colleagues, not just within the UK, but just, you know, from people from other sites. You know, we're a massive organization, so, you know, being able to kind of connect with people from America, from Basel, from Japan, has, you know, really, you know, helped me to kind of grow the early career programs that we have in the UK. So, you know, the fact I'm able to do that, you know, has been a great joy. So that's something that I've always appreciated, and, you know, really kind of, you know, enjoy about Roche. So what the other question was, sorry, just to...
What do you enjoy about working at Roche particularly?
So yeah. So I think, you know, that in a nutshell is kind of the crux of it, is just being able to connect with others, and being able to kind of, you know, work with like-minded people, within this kind of way of, like, co-creation, you know, sitting with people to figure out kind of what the plan of action is, and creating a plan, executing those plans, you know, with great people, and then also seeing the fruits of that labor as well. So, you know, we had a lot of interns that have come in over the last 2 years, or 3 years even, and seeing the value that they've brought to the organization, and the impact that that's had on patient lives, you know, has been massively rewarding to kind of see the impact that you've had, you know, is really great. So I think that's kind of one of the big things for me, in terms of, you know, working within this organization and seeing the impact that you have, on such a global scale as well. So yeah, that's my input onto that.
Hey, thank you. And Maida?
Yeah, so can you remind me what was the question, to make sure that I structure it the proper way around, rather than giving you just everything that's playing on my mind?
The question is in twofold. So what do you enjoy most about your role, and what do you enjoy about working at Roche?
I think working at Roche, what I really, really value is the freedom. That's something that's very important to me, to have that freedom, that empowerment, and to really feel that I can be who I am, with all of my weird, kind ways, quirky ways, just feeling that I don't need to leave portions of who I am outside of the door when I'm in my meetings, whatever. So that's something that I really value, and that I definitely get with Roche. In terms of what I most enjoy about my role is like a little bit of everything. I've been doing a lot of work within early career space. I've been doing some work kind of in the more kind of traditional talent acquisition space, and then also a lot of kind of ED&I projects. And I think what I enjoy about all of that is helping people get clarity on what is it that makes them tick. You know, that moment when someone says something to you and you're like, oh my God, everything falls into place now and everything makes sense. Just being kind of that catalyst for people in helping them find the right roles, helping them figure out what the next step is, just kind of helping them get that clarity, something that I think is such a powerful tool that we kind of as talent acquisition hold. And that's something that is really important for me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Maida. Please go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so I love all of the same things that Maida and Eddie have just talked about in my role, and I'm lucky that I also experience those things in everything that I do. So just to build on top of that, what I also love about my role is having the resources of a 100,000 people organization, that the impact that can have on the world, right? And what I love is being able to use my kind of just my everyday actions, connecting into that amazing kind of set of resources across the world by which to have an impact on the world for good, essentially. And so that's what I love, is how do I get smart about using those resources in such a way that it brings benefit to the world in terms of healthcare and pain and suffering. So that's what I love. And one other thing is also that kind of, and Eddie kind of mentioned it as well, is that co-creation. When you get really close and you kind of remove the barriers between yourself and the people that you're working with. So ego doesn't get in the way. You're really driven by this sense of impact to the wider world and making a big difference. And you can kind of set aside your own personal agenda. When you work with people like that in a creative way, amazing things happen. There's things that I've created or been part of creating or helped bring into this world that without that kind of level of just wonderful relationship with those people around me would never have come into fruition. And we as an organization really value that connectivity between each of us as individuals and just the joy. And it's like a work family, as much as a kind of family at home, we feel as close and connected to the people at work almost as we do with our loved ones and our family as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. Just to follow on from that, Andrew, I wanted to ask, because I know you've shared about your passion for helping people unlock their potential. As a global equality, diversity, and inclusion champion at Roche, what is your vision for people from underrepresented and marginalized backgrounds, for example, students and professionals, in terms of helping them and supporting them achieve their own full potential?
Sure. Well, if I put the corporate kind of words on it first, is we need a workforce across the world that represents the societies that we support, right? And if we're full of the same sorts of people that are kind of at the top of the organization or come from one particular academic background or just scientists, if we were just that kind of singular blend of people, we wouldn't understand, empathize, appreciate, be able to create what actually our customers, which are patients around the world, need. And so just from a kind of just a practical perspective, our organization should reflect the societies in which we operate as an organization. So I love the fact that is a challenge for me and my team and other people that are involved in bringing talent into the organization, to go and find this talent, to go and find the people that are going to help us to bring help and support to all society, and all aspects of society, and all minorities, all differences across the world. So that is one challenge that I'm faced with, and I love, and I take that very, very seriously. And so the pipeline of people coming into our kind of talent pool is absolutely critical for us. And so, myself and Eddie and Maida, we are always looking for channels by which to connect with, attach to, find people that might not ordinarily apply for or consider Roche or healthcare or being a scientist as a kind of career path for themselves, and open their eyes and their minds to the possibilities of coming to work for an organization that is global with 100,000 people in it. So my vision is that we have a workforce that absolutely reflects the societies in which we operate. And we're good in the UK, but that's not the same around the world. We have many different affiliates across the world, and they need to work hard, on their demographics as well. So, and we can be better in the UK as well. So that's one vision. And then another vision, I think, is for Roche to be a global citizen for every other organization to go, there are talent pools that are left untapped. There are people that are overlooked that have so much potential to offer. And if we can be seen as a role model for showing best in class ideas, ways by which to access and unlock that talent that can sit kind of wasting or being blocked or have barriers put in its way to being realized, if we can be a global kind of citizen and demonstrate that to other organizations, that for me is also something very important. And I want us to be kind of the best we can to inspire and encourage other organizations around the world to do the same.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Andrew. Eddie, I'd like you to speak on your experience. You've shared in the past that you're dyslexic, and I wanted to, for the benefit of some of our students who might be neurodiverse or who have non-physical or non-visible disabilities, what was your experience like as a dyslexic student? And how did you find out you were dyslexic? And what kind of support did you get afterwards? And how did it impact your experience thereafter?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a deep story. For me, I found out I was dyslexic in my final year of university, which is very late. And how it kind of came out was, I was talking to one of my lecturers, and they asked about my paper one of the papers that I written, and said, are you still getting your support for dyslexic support and how you can kind of manage your writing. And I was like, well, I'm not dyslexic. And they were like, well, we think maybe you should, get assessed to see if you are, so that you can get the support that you need. Lo and behold, I got the results back, and yeah, I'm dyslexic. They gave me support. So there was like a tutor that basically sat down with me to kind of go through the results of my dyslexia report, which basically showed what things that I could do to support me and my dyslexic barriers. And literally the simplest things about even just knowing that this is the way I think and this is the way that I process information massively helped me to kind of articulate what I needed to say. There are times, and even now, there are times when I try to articulate what I want to say, and that sometimes, is quite difficult. And my grades drastically changed, from my second year kind of results compared to my last, drastically changed. So the last few assessments, even my dissertation, were all firsts, and that bumped my grades like hugely. Unfortunately, obviously, I found out the last year of uni, so that support kind of ended then when I finished. But I've taken a lot of the feedback that I got from those sessions and tried to implement them in other ways to try and develop my skills and to try and develop myself, so that I could put in things that massively help me, so that I can as I start my career. So I did things like pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Again, writing was something that I actively avoided. Speaking I actively avoided. And I took up a role. It's kind of like a public relations, so it's more of a marketing role, and I had to write all the time. So this massively challenged me to kind of put and implement those things in place. And yeah, it massively helped, and before I knew it, my writing has massively improved. Yeah, that's kind of how I found out I was dyslexic, how I kind of managed that. And then I think that one of the other important things to mention as well is that it took time for me to become comfortable with even just kind of talking about it. And I think it when you have certain barriers that you do face, I think it's really important to just recognize them and just work with them as opposed to ignoring them. If you work with them and push yourself out your comfort zone, you start to learn things about yourself and how you can overcome that, and actually the value you can bring, and the different perspectives that you have as well. So yeah, that's kind of basically my little story on how I found out I was dyslexic and how I've been dealing with it since.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us, Eddie.
No problem.
Welcome to David Jacobs. Well, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Apologies for being late.
No problem at all. So we asked the other panelists earlier to tell us something interesting about themselves. Tell us briefly what your role entails at Roche, and also what you enjoy in terms of your role and also working at Roche.
Okay. I'll leave the first question till the end. So what does my role entail? So my official role is I'm the head of business operations for the overall head of all of the manufacturing sites for Roche Pharmaceuticals. It's quite a varied role. It's quite broad. It can be anything from strategy and finance all the way through to dealing with problems on a manufacturing line, and everything in between. I'm quite fortunate. I've got a great boss who allows me the freedom and the flexibility to try new things and explore new things. We're forever changing the way we run meetings. We're forever coming up with creative ideas about how we visualize our data. So that's my regular job. The reason I was late is because I was in another meeting, because I've been asked to lead a project about a transformation. So it's bringing 3 areas together, 3 commercial quality areas together, and trying to transform them into one. And this is the part of the process where we take our products from being produced and bring them to the actual patients. And as medical advances come about, we need to do that differently. At the minute, most people go to the pharmacy, go to the chemist to buy their products. In the future, they may be delivered directly to your door. So understanding exactly how that's going to work in the future is quite exciting, and I'm quite fortunate that I've been asked to lead the project. So that's another part of my job. What do I enjoy about working at Roche? I think the Roche colleagues will tell you it's quite an innovative company, and we're given quite a lot of freedom to express ourselves, to be our true selves in terms of how we show up. I've worked for other pharmaceutical companies in the UK, in Ireland, and in Switzerland. And I'm fortunate to have colleagues that respect me and respect my opinion, just because of my knowledge, just because of the person that I am, as opposed to any preconceived ideas. So having that freedom, having that ability to express yourself, it makes coming to work enjoyable. Because what you end up with then is you get to try new things, and you get to experiment, and you get to fail, and we probably learn more by things going wrong than they do by going right, and that's quite a nice feeling to have. Interesting fact about me, and I don't know what fact Eddie told, but Eddie, if you don't know, used to be a professional athlete. I wasn't a professional athlete, but I was a semi-professional footballer. So that's maybe one of the interesting things about me. And for any of you that sort of live in the London area, I played for Barnet as a youth. So.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. And
You're welcome.
also, how did you actually set your foot into the industry?
I started working, well, when I finished my degree, I went to the University of Hertfordshire and I did my degree there. I then did an MSc at Brunel, and I was looking for a job. And there was a company in Oxford called Oxford Diversity that was looking for bench chemists, and I was a chemist, so I applied for the job. And again, it was a startup company. It was like being in university, because 90% of the people that they employed were just out of university as undergrads or just out of university as PhDs. And we pretty much built up the company in terms of designing molecules and preparing molecules and shipping them out to a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies. And we had a bottleneck at the time. And we could produce them, but we couldn't prepare them fast enough to ship them. So my boss said, listen, can you help out in this particular area? They needed some extra bodies. And I came into that area and I realized that we were never going to achieve our goals with the equipment we had and the setup we had. So we sort of, well, I changed it around, brought more people in, brought in more equipment, changed our processes, and we were able to hit that contract. And I guess by default, I ended up taking over this area, which was compound logistics, and I did that for a couple of years. And then a company in Kent sort of got in touch with me and said, listen, we need somebody to come and do the same thing for us. So I went to work for them, and again, that was quite fun, quite enjoyable. But then they were moving to Cambridge, and there were some of the roles that were being made redundant. So then I found myself being made redundant after about a year and a half, and I was looking for another role, and I applied to an agency, and they said the Abbott Laboratories, which used to be on the Isle of Sheppey, was looking for somebody with a science background to working in GMP, good manufacturing practices. So I went and I was fortunate to come across a person that was willing to take a chance on somebody that didn't really have an expertise in that area, but liked the way that I thought about things, and was willing to give me an opportunity. And that's how I started working for Abbott Laboratories. After 4 years working in the UK, they asked me to go to Ireland. So I worked in Ireland for Abbott Laboratories for 4 years. And Abbott was setting up a new division in Switzerland, and the head of quality, who was based in Dublin at the time, was going to be taking over as head of quality for this new division. And he said, listen, I like what you've done within the site and within Europe. How about you come and work for me? So that's how I ended up moving to Basel, moving to Switzerland. And then I worked for another 4 years with Abbott. And I was looking for a change. Again, still in the pharmaceutical industry, it was still something that I was passionate about. And I applied for a quality role at Roche. And I pretty much had the job. And the recruiting manager said, listen, you'll be bored with this job in 6 months. Have you thought about doing something different? Have you thought about going into operations? And my background up until that point was all quality. And I said no. And then I applied for this role in operations, and I got the job in operations, dealing with our external suppliers. And when I went into the area, I was managing one, and most people were managing one external partner. By the time I left, I was managing 6. So again, sort of just taking an innovative and a creative approach to looking at how we manage our CMOs. And this is something now that they're trying to get everybody up to that level so that we can maximize our resources and the potential of our people. And then the head of operations effectively talked to my then boss and said, would David be interested in being my chief of staff? And that's how I came over. And shortly after I took the role, we went through a transformation, and there were multiple organizations coming together again. So over the last 3 years, we've brought that together into the drug product network. And now I'm being pulled into quality. So that's the short version of my story.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that in-depth version that we just heard. But it's really good to know the kind of path you've taken, because a lot of our students will be thinking, how can I, maybe I'm in my first year or second year, find a position that would be suitable for me, whether because I have quirks, or whether because I have barriers on my way, or whether because I have studied one subject and I might want to work in a different area. So it's so good to hear your different journeys, what you enjoy. And also you talked about Maida. I would like to ask you about the connections and the serendipitous opportunity with which you were able to meet Andrew. How can our students actually make connections with amazing people like you? What advice do you have for them? How can they build relationships with professionals in a field of their interest so that they can make that smooth transition into opportunities as amazing as yours?
That's a great question. I think a couple of things. So for me specifically, I was doing a couple of kind of summer internships back home, because I'm not originally from the UK. I'm from Bosnia, so I used to spend my summers but I did my bachelor's and master's in the UK. So I used to spend my summers back home and doing kind of different pieces of work. And I managed to kind of land a role within Roche affiliate in Sarajevo, which is a super, super small affiliate of like 20 people or so. And I did kind of a little bit of work with them. And then when I was finishing my degree, I kind of reached out to people that I worked in that affiliate. And I was like, look, guys, I'm kind of finishing my master's. I'm thinking about what next. Do you have anyone in the UK that you kind of think would be a great person to reach out and to talk to, just to understand kind of what are the potential opportunities? And that's kind of how I reached out to a couple of people in the UK. They've put me in touch with them. And one of those people was Andrew. And so I kind of shared where my head was at. And because same as Eddie, I didn't know that this is the role. I was like, this is my core and this is what I feel my purpose is, but I don't know how it actually translates into a role. And then I had kind of a little bit of kind of mentoring from Andrew's side in the context of kind of helping me really fine how does that translate into a role. And that's kind of what helped me. So I think in terms of what are the two biggest things that I think that your students could do. So first of all, I do think that it's so important to, whatever type of job you're doing, to reach out to people. Don't see it just as these are my tasks that I need to perform. See it as this is my opportunity to build relationships, and do kind of really take that time out to meet people, not just on, who kind of what you do, what your role is, but really on a very kind of human level of kind of who you are, what makes you tick, because people won't kind of forget how you made them feel. And if you made them feel kind of nice and connected and you had really nice conversation. And I think the other thing is, don't be afraid of asking for help, because no one has it figured out. Like, we're all tagging along and trying to figure it out as we go. So don't feel like by asking you're kind of going to be perceived as incompetent or not kind of able to kind of figure it out on your own and whatnot. So I think that's one thing. And the other thing is just also kind of when asking, just also try to kind of share a little bit of where your head is at, because that really helps the other side to kind of be able to put you in touch with the right people. So I think that's kind of my 2 cents of wisdom.
Fantastic, thank you. Does anyone else want to add anything?
I guess in terms of making the connections, I think this is a great forum, and thanks to Maida, Eddie, and Dr. Elizabeth for setting it up. Don't be afraid to look out, for me or colleagues on LinkedIn or things like that. And if you see somebody in a role that is of interest of you or in an industry, send them an email. Connect with them. Just try to get a bit more insight into what it is they do and what was their journey. As Maida was talking, it reminded me, I went on a training course when I was in the UK quite early in my career, and I met a lady called Elaine Diamond, and we were just talking. She was one of the presenters, and we were talking, and I was just trying to find out about her career, and she gave me her card, and she said, if you're ever thinking of changing career, or if you're thinking changing company, look me up. And I never did, but I held on to the card. And 15 years later, she moved to Switzerland to work for Roche. And I remember the first time I met her, and she actually remembered me from our account in the UK. She said, didn't we meet at a David Beck course? And I said, yeah. So again, whatever the environment is, don't be afraid to go up and talk to people and make those connections, to just find out a little bit about them. Remain curious. I think that's your greatest strength, is curiosity, because what you might be interested in today can change. So getting a different perspective always helps.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yes, I totally agree with everything you've said. LinkedIn is your best friend.
I was going to say, maybe just yeah, I was just going to say, maybe just.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, maybe just to build off of that as well, is, that there are opportunities, out there to kind of make those connections, and every opportunity is useful, and you'll gain something from it. So put yourselves in those positions to have connections like this. Join these sessions. I'm pretty sure that's resonated now. It might in the future, which is going to help you to make better decisions, or help you to kind of have better clarity on what you want to do in the future. So always look for those opportunities, and try and get as much from those as well. And there are loads of different ways you can network and engage. So yeah, just find them and engage with them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, I know we are almost running out of time, but I really want to ask, particularly around the Opening Up Roche program, what inspired it, and what is the focus of the program?
So maybe I can talk to what inspired it. One of my colleagues, Nick, probably about a year ago, at the height of the Black Lives Matter social injustice movement and protests, reached out to me, and he said, David, I'd given a talk about allyship and diversity and inclusion a few months prior, and he said, what can we do? What can we do as a company? What can we do better? And we thought about it, and then we came up with this idea of a targeted internship program for people that we, with differences that we don't have a lot of within Roche. So we started talking, and then we talked to a colleague of ours, Volker, who was responsible for early in careers. He reached out to Maida and Eddie, and that's how this core team was formed. And everybody was really engaged and really thought it was a good idea. And we just started to build and try to figure out how we could set in place this targeted internship program for underrepresented groups within our organization. So that was the inspiration behind it.
Maybe just to build on that a little bit, I think where me and Eddie were also coming from, I think both of us are very, very passionate about ED&I, and we constantly kind of try to get as much data on kind of how our early career kind of pipeline looks like, and are we targeting the right types of people. And we really, in general, kind of us, kind of as Andrew's team, and the way we approach talent acquisition is from this lens of kind of individuals' potential, rather than, as David was mentioning, kind of a tick box of, do you have 10 years of experience in X sort of thing. And what we kind of try to do is do that even more within early career space, because we're appreciative of the fact that we're all just starting kind of as people that are early in career. So you do need kind of someone to take a chance on you, so to say, and really recognize your potential and be kind of the person that will help you to really develop it. And that's how we try to approach early career kind of recruitment and early career programs. But we still felt that there's certain groups that are underrepresented in our pipeline and that are just not getting to us. And then we wanted to kind of really change that. And then as David mentioned, we got connected with Volker, and then Volker connected us with David and Nick, and we were like, oh, this is what we thought. And then David and Nick were like, that's kind of similar to what we thought. And we kind of tried it out last year, got some really good learnings, and are now scaling it up this year. So that was kind of the idea that went behind it.
Fantastic. And what are you looking for as a hiring manager, particularly for this program? What are the top skills you'd really like to see in your opening Up Roche interns?
I guess from my perspective, I'm looking for people that are creative, innovative, willing to work hard, willing to try new things, and not afraid to take a chance, because you might end up working on a project that you don't know anything about, or it's not something that you've thought about. One of the interns that we had from last year, they had no background or thoughts about working in supply chain, but having spent the 2.5 months working on it, they now see that as a realistic prospect for them. So it's about being open-minded and willing to try new things. I think that's what we're looking for. Obviously, we want people that are able to work together, to collaborate, able to communicate, whether that's written or verbally. And again, we know that not everybody is able. We've got introverts, we've got extroverts, and we allow for that, and those are the differences that we respect. So. But it's just that ability to be able to assimilate, collaborate, work hard, think differently.
Fantastic.
And if I can also add to that, David's described it so beautifully. Is maybe you're wondering, but how do I do that? What's the kind of mindset that I've got to have in order to do that? And the program will help you to think like this anyway, in terms of the work that you'll be encouraged to do and the opportunities that you'll have. But how we kind of could summarize some of this is, how do I add value in any situation that I'm in, right? It could be the most simplest of tasks that I've been asked to do, or it could be a really complex part, of a project that's, with lots of people in it. And it's, how do I train my mind to look at this situation and go, based on the skills that I've got and the opportunity and the time and the effort that I've got, how do I add value to this situation? And if you can start to develop that muscle early in your career, it's an incredibly valuable way of looking at the world and developing your mind in any career choice that you'll make. Well, anywhere in your life. It's like if you're starting to come to it and go, wow, I could sit at my desk, right? And there's papers everywhere, and I've got the camera's at a strange angle and what have you. Every situation you're in, you could look at it and go, right, in this, how do I add some value in this particular situation? I could tidy my desk up. I could make sure my camera angle's at the right angle so people can really see me and they can hear what I'm saying. And is my microphone accurate? There's so much value to be unlocked in every single situation. And this is what we encourage through this program, is to develop that muscle so that it will serve you for the rest of your life. And that's just one of those kind of key ways of looking at the world and developing that capacity and unlocking the full potential of your mind. And so I've just wanted to kind of add that broader scope to kind of thinking about how you get into the world of work and what employers are really looking for through whether it's at Roche or somewhere else, is when you've had a cup of tea made by somebody who has made it with love, right? Rather than, they've really thought about what's the best cup of tea I could make in this particular, it takes no more time, doesn't really, it's not a different person, but when that's been really created from that mindset, rather than somebody who's chucked the tea bag in the water and thought, right, okay, let's give it a swirl and add some milk in. And so, just to think about the possibility and opportunity there is to create value.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Following on from that, are there specifics in terms of projects that the Opening Up Roche interns will be working on? Can you share anything in terms of projects for the 2021 cohort?
Not able to share anything at the moment, other than the areas that they could be in, because we're still working on sort of defining those. So there will be operational topics, there will be quality related topics, there'll be supply chain related topics. We've got regulatory related topics, and these are all of the different leadership functions that have committed to sponsoring the program within the pharma technical operations. There will be engineering type projects as well. So it's quite broad. And the program, how we set it up last year, is that people would work in pairs. It would give them an opportunity to bounce ideas off of each other and, have a buddy. But you'd also have internal mentors, as it's described in the advert, and coaches and people that will really help you open your eyes to different possibilities within an organization like Roche. But in terms of specific projects at the moment, we haven't defined those.
Right, okay. Thank you for sharing that. And is there an application deadline? And actually, please, before you answer that, can I just refer our students to the program, which was shared in the chat? If you open the program on page 4 to 5, you see more information about the Opening Up Roche program, and also how to apply. And also, you can also see in pages 6 to 9, 10 things our panelists wish they knew early on in their careers, and they're sharing that with you now. But yes, please go ahead, David. Is there an application deadline in terms of this cohort's application process?
I'm happy to take that one because I set the deadline. So we're relatively flexible in the context of we're looking to kind of see what comes through, and do we feel that we have the right kind of combination of people. But the idea is that it will be open roughly around the 16th of May. And that's when we will look to kind of collate all of the application and then start kind of the recruitment process. And I'm happy to kind of go into the details about recruitment process if now is a good time, because I saw that a couple questions came through in the chat as well.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Absolutely. So again, kind of back to Andrew's point, what we're really after is seeing kind of you for who you are and what you're passionate about. So first of all, no, there's no expectation about a degree. We do think that it might be nice if it's kind of a science-y type of degree, just to kind of have some background, but again, very much open to any type of degree. If science is your passion and if you kind of want to upskill yourself, we would be more than happy to kind of explore that opportunity with you. The program is open to all levels, so first year students, second year students, third year students, any and every type of student. So no kind of guardrails in that sense either. And then in terms of the process, so what we try to do is, first of all, we ask for a CV and a cover letter. Again, back to the point of really wanting to understand your motivation for why you want to uptake this specific opportunity. Then as phase 2, we typically do like a small video interview, which again gives us kind of an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, about why this role makes sense for you, how you're hoping to develop. And then the last piece is assessment center. So that's where we bring together a couple of people that are kind of our final candidates that we again think could be great within the role. So there the focus is more to see how they work together as a team, how they work kind of with us as a team, and really kind of understanding, again, furthermore about their passions, their motivation, the mindset that they bring to the table. And we really make sure that there's clarity around each of the phases. So should you be shortlisted, you'll get much more detail about every of the phase and how to prepare. And we're open to any and every conversation throughout the process, because we want to make sure that you get the kind of right type of information and that you feel you have every information you need to make an informed decision on whether this process is good for you, this program is good for you, and that kind of you get all of the information that you can show up to the best of your ability. So that's kind of the high level.
Okay, thank you for that. And what are the benefits for an opening Up Roche intern in terms of training, resources, and mentoring, and all of those amazing opportunities within Roche?
Do you want to take that one, Eddie?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so there are going to be some very specific ones to the role. So, you know, David can kind of cover some of those. But, you know, we have an intern network and an intern, an intern network that spans from Basel to the UK and across the different business areas as well. So within that, you'll be able to kind of, you know, connect with others about, you know, what specific things they're getting involved in. They have like monthly meetings so that they can like knowledge share. So you'll be joining a community of interns, which is growing, which is good. In terms of like mentoring, some of the business areas do have specific mentors that they dedicate to the interns. We are actually also working on a broader network of employees that will just mentor or have peer-to-peer mentoring. So anyone at Roche could, you know, mentor and support you, you know, to help guide you in terms of your development and what specific things that you are looking to achieve as well. So there are quite a few different initiatives to support that. And maybe just even to call out, you know, some of the formal routes aren't, you know, necessarily the ones that you know would be as beneficial. There are a lot of organic connections that can be made. So you know, whether that's people that you work with, people that you've kind of had kind of connections with through projects. So yeah, the kind of the world's your oyster there, but there are some very specific things that you can get involved in whilst if successful and whilst working at Roche. I don't know, David, I don't know if you've got any additional things that you guys have got planned for the interns.
I guess maybe to start off by saying, you know, within Roche, within this particular internship program, we treat our interns as regular employees. So you're not going to be coming in and making the tea or anything like that. We will put you to work on a meaningful project. We will support you. You'll have a direct contact with a leader within the organization. We'll also have mentors available to you. Also, those of us on our program are always available to have a conversation. You know, if there's something challenging you, if there's something you just want to talk about, just generally, if you want to get a better insight. So we make sure that we have a certain structure in place for all of the interns that will be coming in. And we've specified that internally. But as Eddie says, it's some of those organic conversations, people that you just happen to have maybe a single conversation with on a specific topic. Don't feel free to reach out to them to mentoring, for coaching, for any additional support that you think would benefit you ultimately. Because at the end of the day, we want you to succeed. That's why we've put this in place. It's about you. It's not about us. It's about us wanting you to have this as a springboard into your careers going forward.
Thank you, David. Okay, just before we finish the panel discussion, I have one question for all of our panelists, and then Celine will take on the questions in the chat. And it is, what can students do now to prepare for their future careers so that they can be competitive in today's job market?
I'm happy to go first. I think my biggest advice, back to David's point, is to stay curious and stay open-minded, because we're at a point in time where there's so much change that some of the careers that you're looking at now probably won't exist like in 10 years time. So you'll constantly have to reinvent yourself in every career, no matter what you choose. You'll have to learn and change and kind of learn new things and new skills. So just staying curious and open-minded, and really kind of taking the time out to think about what fulfills you, not what the society expects of you, what your parents expect of you, what anyone expects of you, but what really what would be your ideal job and what would make you kind of smile every day that you get up and go to your work. And you won't figure it out all at first, but you'll definitely figure out, oh, this might be a good first step. And then you go and try it and stay open-minded. And you'll meet some great people, and they'll probably help you figure out what the next steps are, and just take it kind of one step at a time. That would be my 2 cents.
Thank you, Maida.
I was going to say, leave something for the rest of us, Maida, to offer us. So I'm gonna have to build on that. So I obviously talked about this idea of when you look at every situation, thinking about what's the value that I can create in this particular situation. So that is something I would emphasize, but maybe something a little bit more subtly is not to give yourselves a hard time. We have a cognitive bias, or a propensity to perhaps over criticize our own kind of choices, our behavior. We just don't think we're perfect, or we're just not. So I would encourage you to catch yourself whenever you're giving yourself a hard time and not thinking that you're worthy or working hard enough or making the right decisions. So, and that would serve you, again, I think, for the rest of your life, is to be really mindful of how you treat yourself in your own mind. So look at that.
And if I could just build on what Andrew said about worthiness, I think it's important to understand your worth versus your worthiness, because I think a lot of the time people think about their worthiness. Have I been to a particular university? Have I got a particular degree? Am I worthy of the position? As opposed to, as Andrew put it quite nicely, what's the value you bring to an organization? What's the value you bring to a situation? So I would say definitely to keep that in mind. One other point is, for me, don't be afraid of hard work. I've met lots of very smart people through my career, but they weren't willing to do the hard work, and it was a waste of talent at the end of the day. So if you find that job or that opportunity that makes you smile, as Maida said, every day, don't be afraid to work hard at it, because people will see that and people will appreciate that, and that will put you in good stead.
And then a final comment, I suppose, then for myself, is also have comfort knowing that what you bring adds value. Your novelty, your kind of untapped mind or untouched mind in terms of like the working environment brings value. So I think for me, that's kind of maybe something that I could just add, is that you all bring something that's going to be massively useful for an organization. Just your perspective is going to be really useful.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much for sharing your insights and your journeys and the amazing place you're working at Roche. I love the fact that you have the freedom and intellectual freedom, particularly to work with people, to engage in new initiatives and ideas. And we're really grateful, and we really applaud you for creating this initiative to support students from underrepresented and marginalized backgrounds. I'm now going to hand over to Celine to help us with the questions. We've had quite some interesting conversations in the chat already. Andrew, someone knows you here, so that's a good testimonial to know that this is not just lip service, this is actually real.
Yeah, I didn't pay him anything either. You're literally complete surprise. But hello, Simon. Yeah, good to hear from you.
And thank you for your questions. Celine, please go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, just a reminder for everyone: we have shared the program in the chat, and it will also be sent via email. So if you have any, if you haven't seen it, just scroll the chat, and there are multiple occasions for you to find it and download it.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to just share the link for the feedback form. So whilst we're doing the question and answers, please take 2 minutes to fill out the feedback form. We will really appreciate that. Please go ahead, Celine.
Yes, that's it. I've seen Maida has already replied to some of the questions, so I've tried to collect some of the questions that haven't got an answer yet. But please, if you feel I missed your question, just feel free to repeat it. So let's start with the question from Roxana, who is asking what chance I have to work in the pharmaceutical field as a biomedical scientist.
I would say you've got every chance of working in the pharma industry. It's about what you want to do more than anything else. That your degree is not going to hold you back. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I think it answers it perfectly.
Okay.
So we have another question from Avnish that first starts thanking the panel, and I would like to thank the panel too. That's been very insightful. And then the question is actually, if you could go back to when you graduated, what would you do differently to find your dream career path quicker?
I wouldn't. I think everything, to the point made earlier, about the opportunities. I think every opportunity, everything I've done, failed, done good at, learned some skills. I wouldn't. I think there's value in, failing. There's value in discovering things that you don't like, things that you do like. So yeah, I wouldn't in that case.
I would say. Go ahead, Andrew.
No. Well, I'm because I was going to build on a point that you made. I think I would have worked harder when I first graduated. Yeah, I was like Eddie. I was a little bit kind of, I'm learning. I'm experiencing new things and finding new. So everything was valuable, but actually that stuff that I really loved, I wish I'd just worked harder at it earlier as well. And I think I might have just created more value in the world quicker by doing that.
And I was going to build on what Eddie had said. I think I come from a similar place. There were so many different things that I could have done, but in every job that I've done, in the countries I've lived in, the people that I've met, I've learned something, and I've been able to take something that brings me to where I am today, and the value that I'm able to provide for people around the world, the medicines that we provide. Yeah, it just enhances that. So I don't think I would change anything.
Back to Andrew's point, I would just be a little bit less hard on me. Other than that, wouldn't change a thing.
There is actually one thing I did learn later that I wish I'd learned a bit earlier is to actually maybe understand how my mind had been conditioned already by my past, and becoming more aware of how I was viewing the world based on the experiences that I'd had. And becoming aware that maybe the way I was viewing the world based on that conditioning may be holding me back. So I had a potentially an inaccurate view of what the world was based on my experience and growth, and and the conditioning and what my parents had taught me, my family, my society, the background I'd had. And actually, I needed to challenge my assumptions about the world maybe a little bit earlier, and that might have freed me up and liberated me from some of my fears about what's right and wrong or what's true about the world a little bit quicker as well. So might be a bit too kind of esoteric and kind of about the brain, but if you can see where maybe maybe how I'm seeing the world is holding me back, where did I get that from? How do I overcome it? Why does it arise? Then you may step more fully and freely into the future as well.
Thank you so much. I mean, these were all very great answers. And we have a more practical question now from Scarlett. The question is about advancements after the internship, or possible advancements after the internship, and if there's a chance for staying on within the company after the end of the internship.
So this particular internship runs for a fixed period, but there are lots of other internship programs out there. What this will do is this will give you an insight into Roche as an organization and whether it's a place that you would want to work. The two interns that we had last year are both coming back in the summer. One to work on the original project she worked on, the other to work in a completely different area. So yeah, the doors open for them based on the work that they had done.
Perfect. So I think this question already was partially answered, but maybe it's still good to kind of repeat it. So Priyanka is asking, how realistic is the project that the intern is going to conduct on the program? And does that directly translate to the work done in real life? And how are the interns' contributions going to help the company goals?
We should have got Nick in for this, by the way, but I'm happy to take that question. So the interns worked on the supply of a new product recently launched by Roche called Evrysdi, and it's for the treatment of spinal muscular atrophy in adults, teenagers, and children. They were looking at how could we get that product to patients faster in Hong Kong and Singapore. And as I mentioned, one of them has come back to work on that project because this is a real business challenge. This is a condition, it's a debilitating condition that affects people around the world, and the faster we can get our medicines to those people without them having to go through the long loop of chemists and pharmacies and hospitals and get it to them in their home helps them, because they're not always as mobile. So that's a real world challenge, and it's something they're working on. And as I mentioned, one of them is coming back to work on that over the summer, because they got it to a point and now we want to take it forwards and actually realize it day to day.
Sorry, I'm just a couple of questions have already been answered. I think this is very interesting from Maria. What would a typical day during the internship look like?
That's difficult to answer because we're quite flexible. We realize that some of you might have other things that are ongoing over the summer. You might have you might be taking extra credits and things like that. So whichever the department is, it's about, you know, finding a schedule that works for you and works for us. There's no hard and fast plan at the moment. It's really dependent on individuals.
And from Priyanka, we have the question that can you provide some advice for first generation university students who have had very little exposure to working in an industry?
So I was going to say, so one of the programs that comes under the Open Up Roche banner is the University Mentoring Program. So you can be paired with an employee within the organization that can help support you in terms of, you know, you can ask them questions and be a soundboard so that you can kind of learn a bit more about working within industry. Also, we've got we have work experience opportunities where you can come in for a day or two to just learn more about the organisation or a specific topic. So you know, have a look out for those opportunities. But I would definitely encourage the mentoring opportunity, and then again, attend events like this. You know, connect with people. Network is going to be your friend. You know, LinkedIn is a great place to connect with people who you know, can give you those answers. And so don't be afraid to kind of reach out and ask. I think that's a really important thing to mention. Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to people.
Thank you. I think I covered all the questions. If someone else has any question, please feel free to write it in the chat or raise your hand and ask the question.
I have a question for our panelists. What is the biggest lesson life has taught you?
From a business perspective, or just generally?
Just generally.
I would say to do your best every day, because you have no control over how long you're here or what happens outside of your control. So do your best every day, and if you find a job or a career that you enjoy doing and that allows you to do both, then that's a bonus. But mine would be to do your best and be your best every day.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that, actually. You know, if you, whatever you've ended up deciding you're going to do, be as wholehearted, you know, in that activity or that choice as possible, because if you're not wholehearted, you won't get the most learning out of it. Whether you're, yeah, and if you can't be a wholehearted in it, it's telling you something, right? So so I'm with that. I'm like, how am I turning up right now for what I'm about to do? Am I engaged? Am I going to give myself fully to it? Am I going to be wholehearted? Because the more wholehearted you are, the more you'll get back out of life. And the second thing is, be kind. You know, that's what life has taught me. You know, if you put yourself ahead of everyone else, if you put your own agenda, your own ego in front, you lose connection, you lose relationships, and it doesn't hurt to be kind. And being kind, actually, you get a whole lot more back. So it's a really strange equation that you think, oh, I can't give any more, and the more I give, actually, the more I get back in return. So that's a useful one.
Yeah, I agree with both comments as well. And I think for me, another big one is, like, everyone thinks differently, and be appreciative of that. Everyone has a perspective that can feed into the puzzle, whatever challenge that is. Yeah, I think everyone thinks differently, so appreciate that and be patient with that as well.
Thank you. I know in the program, actually, we have our panelists already share 10 things they wish they knew early on in their career. So please refer to that. That's really insightful. For me, it would be to kind of plan ahead from day one as a student, because for me, and also to build those relationships, I was very cocooned in academia, and I really found it really difficult to make the leap from academia into industry. So I'd suggest from day one, when you speak to your lecturers at the end of lectures, you can ask to if they have connections in industry, you can use LinkedIn. I always just send a lovely short message about who I am, what I really admire about the person I'm trying to connect with on LinkedIn, and ask for a 20-minute conversation. And then from there, you can build on that relationship, and hopefully that morphs into something more. And then you can find new connections that way as well. But I'll be very strategic in terms of who I reach out to based on my field of interest. And then hopefully they'll be able to open doors for me as well. I would also encourage students to reach out to mentors or find mentors. It doesn't have to be particularly in your field of study. I have mentors from sales, from the law field, and what a mentor does really is just to give you that perspective, a different perspective based on their longer years of experience in life and also in different industries. And I've benefited so much from over 20 mentors in my journey. So I'd really encourage you to seek out mentors, find and build relationships with people, and also build relationships and keep in touch with your peers. Some of my peers today are doing amazing work across the world, and I still keep in touch with them. I remember when I was in Toronto for my Churchill Fellowship, I actually met up with a group of my former lab mates because I was in town. And you never know where those opportunities will lead. So it's always good to build relationships from undergraduate to masters to PhD, even in your new jobs. And hopefully when you do get into Roche, you'll be able to fly and achieve your goals. Are there any more questions?
Yes, there are some additional questions. There are some more practical questions. I've seen a lot of questions about how to apply. Elizabeth has shared the link with you and the code in the chat, but you also have the program, so it's also in the program. There is a question which is about the actual work. So will there be any roles that are directly involved with drug development?
Not as part of this particular internship program. We do have internship programs focused more on drug development, but they tend to be over a longer time period. Now, that's not to say if there's somebody that has a real specific interest in drug development, if they include that, I can have a conversation with the leaders in that area to see if there's something available.
Thank you. So there are a couple of practical questions. One is about the starting date. So someone is saying they wouldn't be able to start in June. Would it be possible to start in July? And someone else is asking about current location. So they're not in the UK now. Can they still apply?
With regards to the location, I guess I can ask Eddie the question, if they're at one of the UK universities, regardless of where they are physically, they're still eligible to apply.
Yeah, and we'll work with a local site to hire you as well. So we do work globally. So connecting with David's group, they work in Basel. So if you're hired in the UK, your team's in Basel. So there is that flexibility to kind of gain a contract within your local country. There was another question, sorry, around what's the second part to that?
The other question was around the starting date. So is the start date set in stone, let's say, or flexible?
Yeah, I would say the start date is flexible. So yeah, I mean, David, I don't want to speak for you, but the intention is to be as flexible as possible. So this specific opportunity in terms of a part-time job, so you can work alongside your studies, is all designed to give you valuable work experience whilst you're studying. So some people might not be able to kind of find an opportunity or do free work experience, for instance. So this is this opportunity is there to support you in that. So we want to be as flexible as possible, and the whole point, and again with Roche and with our programs, we're flexible, so we want to know what's going to what you need as well. So if you feel there's a better way to support you to achieve kind of gaining more knowledge, gaining more work experience, let us know. We're definitely open to amending programs to kind of suit the need. So,
and if I can just build on that, Eddie, if you remember last year's interns, it ran from October to I think the first or second week in December. So they were doing it definitely in parallel with their studies. I know this is sort of more over the summer, but they were able to fit it in with their studies as well.
I think connected to what Eddie just said, there's also a question regarding, it's from Avnish, and the question is, for successful internship applicants, are Roche willing to facilitate a space for students to come back and utilize their contacts as part of their dissertations?
Again, I think this is kind of a point around, maintaining your networks and your connections. So yes, we have had previous interns who have, say, for instance, for their industrial placements, who have came back or are coming back to do their kind of third-year projects with Roche. So, and we have mechanisms in place for that. So, when you're here, definitely connect with the people that you're working with and others in the organizations, so you can kind of facilitate and make that happen.
And a question that is more about your path, your career path, from Priyana, is about what kind of struggles have you faced in your path to get where you are now?
I think maybe going back to something that Eddie said earlier, and it's about, people, we all think differently. And maybe one of the biggest struggles is coming into contact with people that think differently from how I think, and they're not willing to understand or take the time to understand the different perspectives. So you find yourself sort of coming up against a brick wall where people aren't willing to be open and collaborative. So that's probably one of the biggest that I would say that I faced.
Thank you. Does any other panel member want to share their experience?
Yeah, mine, I think, is kind of like the working my way and supporting myself independently whilst trying to, get into and developing a career. Wonderful parents, but working 3 or 4 jobs, trying to bring up 3 kids. Very little money. Going to university was really not an option. So paying my way essentially while still studying and trying to get into a career and holding those 2 down, just again kind of gave me some resilience, I guess, and some kind of skills and understanding and independence and resilience. So the struggles that that struggle in particular, I know has served me well, despite at the time it feeling like, wow, I wouldn't it be lovely if I was able to just kind of like focus on studies, or and so but now I look back and I go that it was preparing me, it was helping me, it was, so I don't look as a struggle as something I kind of like wish I didn't have. And that's arguably kind of what we're also saying quite strongly with this particular internship, is it's that stuff that makes you valuable, bring more to the organization. Yeah, so don't look at your struggles, if you've got them, as barriers. Look at them as valuable learning and tools to increase your capacity and bring to the workplace.
Yeah, just to build on that as well, like from an athlete's perspective, when we talk about the weight room, if you're struggling to lift the weight, it's probably a good thing. And if you continue to try and you do struggle, you'll reap the benefits after. So like lifting that 100k yesterday was really hard, but actually because you went through it, because you struggled, the next day that 100k is easy because you've adapted, your body's grown, developed. So yeah, 100%. I think struggles is definitely something to embrace as opposed to avoid as well.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
No. I was just thinking. Oh, did I mention what my struggles were? I think mine were work experience, right? Like, I remember there's a time I was, desperately trying to get into HR because, I love working with people. I love that whole element. And everyone was like, yeah, you need work experience. So I was like, oh, okay. So, but what I did was try to find the work experience and did everything I could to develop and find the skills that they were required. So yeah, that was my struggle, but it was just the challenge that you have to try and get over, and it's helped in the future, in the long run.
Okay. Thank you so much, Celine, for organizing the question and answers. And thank you so much to our panelists. We really do appreciate your insights and your time and the amazing nuggets of wisdom you've shared today. Thank you also to our students for attending our session. We look forward to hopefully getting back to some of you on the questions. We'll endeavor to respond to you via email. And I'll also explicitly share the link, the code, and also how to apply the deadline and answer as many questions as we can. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Celine, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we'll see you at our next event. But all the best and good luck to all our students, and thank you again to our panelists and to Roche Limited for commissioning this event.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
You're still recording.